Hi, and welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. I'm Karen Barnes, an accountability coach with Serendipity Action Coach of Central North Carolina, and I am joined today by a big visionary entrepreneur, V Atlas. He likes to go by V, so that's what we're going to call him today. And he is the founder of a fashion and design business. We're going to learn a lot about how he goes about that business, some lessons that he's learned. He's just introduced a new product he was telling me about and how that relates to what he's doing and how he's building out this very exciting business. So look, first a little bit of housekeeping. This is YouTube, so you know what you need to do. You need to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of the good stuff, because we are putting out good stuff every single week that you're going to need to know how to grow your business. I need you to hit that thumbs up like button and share this with all of your other business owner friends so they can gain from these lessons as well. So V, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm excited to talk to you, man. So tell me about your business. What do you do? What's the name of your business? How did you get started?
Oh man, I got started about 15, 20 years ago and just freelance designing for a couple of different groups out there in the industry. Our passion is design. Our mission is design. Everything we do is all about design and putting design in front of our customers and our consumers.
And when you're talking about design, I want to make sure everybody
Okay.
really understands what it is that you're designing. So what are you designing?
Okay, so we design fashion,
There
top
you
to bottom,
go.
head to toe, inside and out. So we do underwear, socks, you name it, we design it from a fashion standpoint.
Nice. So what are some of the things that you've worked on before that maybe people have seen out in the
Oh,
world that they may have bought or seen? Like, tell us a little bit about some of your success stories in the past.
okay, I always tell people, and when they ask me, they say, well, what have you designed? What has been in the industry for you? And I tell them, I say, you probably got something on that belongs to me now. You know, and they do exactly that. They kind of laugh and say, right, I hear you. And I say, your underwear, what type of underwear you wear? And they say, well, I wear hanesbrands. I say, okay, I was the head lead designer for hanesbrands. So I led the
Nice.
process for that. Then when it comes to socks, it's the same situation. I led in process for socks as well, in a different brands and different categories. So hats and so forth as well. I also designed for a couple of urban brands. And those urban brands are FUBU, Fat Farm, Sean John, and
Yeah.
Rockaware. Yeah.
Holy cow. Well, I'm not wearing any FUBU underwear today. I'm not that cool, but I bet I'm sure I have worn products that you have designed before. So that's
Yes.
really cool. That's really cool. What's your favorite thing to design out of all those items that you just listed?
Oh man, it's hard to say. I just like to see the impression of my customer. Like when I go to retail, I like to stand around and people watch people that walk up to my product. And when they walk up to my product, I like to see them do the three things that I always tell people to do. And one of the things is what draw you to product. And the first thing to draw you to the product is what? Packaging. And then
Yes.
the second thing that draws you to the product is the hand feel. So packaging is first, hand feel is second. And then the last thing you're going to do is what? You're going to turn it over to see how much it is so you can walk it out the store,
Yes.
So, for me to pick one thing that I've designed and put together is tough, but to watch consumers walk up to my product and smile and laugh and walk away with it in their pocket, that's what makes me joyful of design.
So I love that you are going for that emotional impact in the design of your product. So I'm going to go off script here a little bit, if you
Okay.
don't mind. Like, tell me a little bit about your design process. So how are you
Mm.
starting to think about how people are going to wear your t-shirts or your socks or
Mm.
your hats? And what's the emotion that you want them to have when they're experiencing your design?
Yeah, to start the design process, you usually go through, I go through research, right? So
Yeah.
my research is, like I said before, is going out and people watch what people have on, watch what the next trends could be in the nation, see what the feel of the environment is that they're in. That tells me where I want to design and where I want to put my product. All those add up to a wonderful piece of material that goes on a body. And that's what I look for.
So when somebody So are you trying to help people like celebrate who they are, or is like, what's the, what's the, or do you have it? Are you just kind of like, I just want people
Mm-mm.
to enjoy what I'm putting out there?
Both, you know, so you
Yeah,
want people to enjoy what you're putting out there. And then when they put it on, you want them to feel great in it. You
yeah.
want them to look great, feel great, all that wax in one ball.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So as a freelance designer,
Mhm.
tell me, freelance is such a it's a hard place to be in
Yes.
that you have to go, you're doing everything. You're going out and doing all the sales, you're doing the
Yes.
work, you're doing all the back end administrative stuff. Tell me a little bit about how you approached being a freelancer. And were you doing that in addition to your full-time job, or yeah, you
Yeah,
were
you almost
side
had, yeah,
hustling?
yeah, you
Yep.
almost have to. Yeah. Well, when I first started out, it was a little different. So not to age me backwards, but back in the days when it was the FUBU Fat Form Sean Johns, it was like you land in New York, you walk down the street, you meet all the brands, you do the business, right?
Yep.
But nowadays it's a little different. You got the internet and so forth. So it's a little different now. Everybody want to do things e-commerce wise, back and forth over the internet. So that makes it difficult. That makes it a little bit difficult. But yes, you're right though. I was doing it both ways. I had full-time job and also working the freelance thing at night.
Wow.
And I used to stay up like people ask me, they say, how can you do it? Because you stay up like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then you have to be at your full-time job at 8 o'clock. Yeah, it makes it tough. Yeah.
That's exhausting.
It makes it tough and exhausting, but you know what? At the time, I was young, it felt good, did good, didn't nobody even notice the difference. So
Yeah, it's for the days when we only needed 4 hours of sleep, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So now it's a little different now because when you have your own brand, like the Vielas brand, and you're putting forth your effort to do that, it's a little bit different. It's more of you putting into your product with no say so. So now you control the whole ball of wax. You control everything.
So tell us a little bit about your company. So are you full-time in your company now? Is it still a side hustle? Tell me a little bit about what it looks like.
Honestly, it's a little bit of both. So what happens is you have the Vielas brand that you're babysitting and making sure that's the full-time thing that brings home the bacon. But you also do still have people calling you, wanting you to freelance for them. Like, so I definitely take on those jobs as well. We try not to as much. And I tell people a lot
Yeah,
of times I turn down a lot. I'd say, that used to be the days when I needed the freelance and needed
right.
the business. But now, you're kind of grown out of it, and then you want to concentrate and focus 100% on your own brand. So
Yeah.
I'm giving other brands probably 5 to 10% of my time.
Wow. And you know what? As a solo entrepreneur, right? As a small
Huh?
business owner, sometimes it's really hard to say no, right?
It's very hard.
Yeah, when somebody's got a check right there.
Yeah.
So how do you maintain that discipline? One of the things I talk with entrepreneurs and business owners a lot about, and that they
Mhm.
struggle with, honestly, and I hear as their coach is maintaining that focus and keeping their focus on doing what matters the most for their business. So talk to me a little bit about how you maintain that focus and how you're able to say no to certain
Uh-huh.
things, even though it might be tempting, but you also know it's a distraction.
I'll be honest with you, I can't, you know, I can't, I can't do it, and that's just the nature of the beast. I got a call just last week from a brand, and they asked me if I could do some of their product, and they said, well, we're gonna fly you to New York so you can take a look at it. So I did it, you know. So I did it. And like you said, sometimes, money is greed. You have to look at it that way. But my biggest thing is satisfaction is my passion. So to
Mhm.
satisfy a brand and to satisfy my design process, that's more than any dollar could even spend for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I used
Yeah.
to tell people, I designed a couple of the NFL football uniforms back when I was working with another brand called Champion. And
Sure. Yeah.
I designed some of those uniforms, and man, my passion to see those guys on Sunday to wear those uniforms was outstanding.
Boy, I just read that Hanes is selling the Champion brand.
They sold it this week. Yeah,
1.2 billion
I
for
know.
that brand.
I wish.
So I wish, right? So what's the big vision for your design company and for your brands?
Okay, so this is what I'm looking at. This is my goal. This is my thought process, is to get the brand set up to where I can license it out. And when I license it out, that gives me the opportunity to sit back and do what I've been doing for a long time. People license stuff out to me. So, and
Yeah.
I totally understand that licensing it out, I still control the design process, but I don't
Yep.
control the manufacturing, although I got the last say so. And that's my goal.
So talk to me about where you mentioned to me just before we started this
Mhm.
that you've been in Macy's before, you're in e-com.
Yeah.
Where can people find the things that your brand, like your brand, your Viatlis brand?
Right now it's e-com. So it's on the internet. So it's www.viatlas.com. You can
And
find
spell that out for us. Uh-huh.
VEATLASS.com. Yeah.
And if you had to describe that brand, what kind of brand is that? Like who's going to be buying that? Who's that intended for?
Okay, I always tell people, and I always tell my kids, when they play sports, to look in the mirror and tell me who your competition is. That is your competition that's in the mirror. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so for me, that's the same thing in the business of branding. My competition is not out there. I don't have competition. Who do I mimic myself after? I don't mimic myself after nobody. I want to be unique and be myself.
Nice.
So my thought process is if you was to see my brand in retail, retailers would see it next to Amani, the Amani Exchange brand. That's what they always compare it to. And I tell them, I say, you
Mhm.
can't compare me to Amani. I'm Viatlis, But that's what they want to sit me right next to as Amani Exchange. Yeah.
Interesting. So if I was to extrapolate from that, that would be, I mean, when I think of Armani Exchange, right, I
Uh-huh.
think of a pretty high-end brand,
Yes.
very high design standards,
Yes.
very high production and quality standards.
Mhm.
Um, what does it take? You've put together multiple brands. Viatlis is not your only brand, right?
Right.
So tell me about the other brands that are sort of under your company.
Okay, so the way I look at it when I design my brands, I say I want to capture every category. I'm missing one category, but I want to capture every category. So Swagger Styles, which you can find it at the lower end stores, the lower end retailers. So that's Marshalls, TJ Maxx, City Trends, carry it. So you can find it there. And that's the price point that I want to hear or lay down for everybody for that brand. The second brand is YJBU, and it stands for You're Just Been Used Sportswear. And if you want to say who did it follow, the YJBU followed the attitude of the And1 brand back in the day. Okay. So
Yeah.
that puts us in the middle stage. And it also captures all the athletes, where Swagger Style captures the urban. And then V Atlas is the top of the
Is
line.
the higher end. Right, right,
Yes.
right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, listen, for you guys that are thinking about building brands,
Uh-huh.
Via's got it figured out, right?
Sure.
So, one of the things that we often talk about was this is a portfolio approach, right? So how
Yeah.
do you hit those three different tiers and price points?
Uh-huh.
So of those three,
Yeah.
Swagger Styles, Viatlis, YJBU,
Uh-huh.
which one of those is the most successful and do you make the most money off of?
V Atlas. Yeah, V
And
Atlas is the most successful. And that's because of the margins.
right,
Because when you start looking at the margins for somebody like Swagger Styles, who's at TJ Maxx, Marshalls,
right,
the margin number is gonna be like 8% margin. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So when you start going up the ladder with it, like, hopefully Foot Locker or somebody like that brings on YJBU, now you're looking at a margin around 30%. Now,
Absolutely.
now with me saying margin, that's retail margins. Now online, that's 100% mine, right?
Right.
That's why e-commerce is so important to me and so important to the world today, where brick and mortar is going away because e-commerce is bringing in all the margins for the brands.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a little bit of a different turn here, V, because I want to talk about you as a business owner for a little
Okay.
bit.
Mhm.
Okay. So in your role as an owner, like
Yes.
what does a typical week look like for you? What are you spending your time on in terms of, how down in the weeds are you doing the design and sales and marketing and operations and leadership and team building and like how do you spend
Right.
your time as a business owner now?
Uh, Basically, it's just trying to you got to stay in tune with the market, right? So your first stage is to make sure that the market is right for you. So you're going to spend a lot of time over in Europe. You might spend a lot of time over there just because, fashion is always said to go backwards. So fashion from Europe comes back to us here in the States. So I spend a lot of time on research. The second part of it, I do it just to stay in tune. I am the designer, and that's my title, the designer. So that is me. So I'm going to design. And I also got some guys that work with me, like a guy named Carl Watts. He works with me when it comes to design. Marketing, I got a couple of people that works with me with that as well. But I contract those out.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And
I don't have anybody full-time on payroll.
right.
Yeah.
So you're really running as a solopreneur,
Yes.
right? Which is tough, but you have made a smart decision, which is, hey, I know what I'm good at. I'm going to contract out everything else, right?
Right. Right.
So what would you say makes your brands unique? You say you don't have any competitors, but what makes them unique? What would draw somebody in to any of your three brands or into your company?
So a lot of people, when they look at it, okay, one of the things that my brand carries and everybody
Mhm.
looks at is I'm gonna say an elite fiber. And that elite fiber is cashmere. So
Ooh, yeah.
yeah, so we try to carry cashmere in everything we do. So and the
Nice.
reason being because the name VL is the goat is the logo. And the goat is the logo because of the cashmere that comes from the neck of the goat. And not
Oh.
only is he's my logo for that reason, the brand was established for my two boys who were born in January, which are Capricorns.
Aha. Now it's all starting to come
Yeah.
together. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's one of the things. If you ever touch one of my fibers on one of the shirts, it melts in your hand. Let's put it that way. So everybody always say, "Oh man, I had never felt a shirt that felt like this," or the socks. And it's not a lot of cashmere in it, but it's enough cashmere to make you want more.
You know, I if it were up to me, I would live in Italian linen and cashmere. That would be it. That would just be it. Right.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. What was it about what made you decide you wanted to go into business for yourself? It sounds like you had a big career at hanesbrands.
Mhm.
You're working on NFL football uniforms with Champion and big, commodity products, hanesbrands, stuff everywhere. That's a huge company. Like,
Yeah.
what made you decide I want to do this for myself?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. Hanesbrands, what they're doing now, they just sold out, right? Champion, the brand is gone. So
Yeah.
when I was at Hanesbrand, it did the same thing. They sold off Champion design team. So we had an option to move from the city that we're in or move to Kansas City. And we were like,
Mm.
we don't want to do that. So at that exact moment, I was like, you know what? I always had entrepreneur blood in me. So just took it from there and ran. I said, you know what? I don't want to have somebody else controlling
Yes.
my future. Yeah.
So making that transition, and
Mhm.
so many people have done it, right? When they're exactly in a position like you, like,
Yes.
hey, this is not an option anymore. I really want to see if I can invest in myself, right? Bank on myself. What have been some of the biggest lessons you've learned about business and that you've learned about yourself on your entrepreneurial journey?
Uh, Learning about business. I mean, just learning the inside. It's a cutthroat business. It's really a
Yeah.
cutthroat business. So when you go into, like, say for instance, on a sales call, and you go to, say I go to Kohl's department stores and go to their corporate headquarters and present to them. Well, right behind me presenting is another brand wanting to come in and
Exactly.
space that I want.
15 minutes later. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're giving Kohl's, or you're giving that department store total control of your future.
Mm.
So now that makes a lot of brands go to where I just said earlier, everybody goes to e-commerce because you control your own. Now, with that being said, your marketing dollars goes towards marketing on e-commerce,
Yep.
Amazon or whatever it may be, and you get away from all the other madness that goes with presenting to a retailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how would you describe your leadership style? You've been
Ooh,
in business now a long time. You're a
yes.
leader of teams and of people and of brands.
Mhm.
So, what would you say your leadership style is, V?
Very laid back. Very relaxed.
V stands for very laid back.
Very laid back. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like to have a homey type of environment around me. Everybody feel like family, everybody's relaxed. And you can ask people in the industry that's worked for me. And I had another brand called Dada Supreme, and that was a license deal. So the owners from Dada gave me the rights to do all the accessories for them.
Nice.
Yep. So I did that, and I had a whole team. At that point, I had about 15, 20 people working with me, and everybody loved
Wow.
it. The thing that made me come out of it was a bad deal that the brand made.
Mm,
It wasn't on us, it was on the brand itself. And they just didn't deliver on some shoes that they supposed to have delivered.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
you
I
got,
so I
go
love
ahead.
that. Just keeping my environment very home friendly. Yeah.
Nice. You just brought up a really interesting point that I wanted to touch on, which is as a designer, you have to really trust your manufacturing partners,
Yes. Yes.
right? So
Yes.
how have you found manufacturers, and what kind of problems do you encounter with just trying to get stuff made?
Um, I hadn't encountered a lot. It depends on where you're getting your stuff made at. You would love to have everything made right here at home in the USA. I would love it. But that's not the nature of the beast today. So today I have to go over to Asia. You got Turkey, you got Pakistan, which I would never go, but I use Pakistan for some stuff.
Yep.
Oh, so those are the aspects that I have to deal with. And you have to trust on those guys putting the right product together and send it back. They send samples back to you, but now the question is, those samples, did they put 100% in those samples? Production, are they going to put like 65% in production?
Mm,
You don't know. And have I had kickbacks from it? Yes, I have. That's why I like a lot of stuff to come shipping directly to my warehouse before going directly to the store.
yep. No, that totally makes sense.
Uh-huh.
So, what are the challenges in your business right now? Like, what are the things that are just making you a little bit crazy, or places where you feel stuck, or you're just, you're doing this a lot, right? We
You
all
just
do this. What's that for you?
you just hit the nail on the head. No pun intended.
Every
But
pun
yeah,
intended.
it's manufacturing.
Uh-huh.
Manufacturing. Yeah. So
Yep.
say for instance, you got a couple styles on your e-commerce site, or you got a couple styles that's going to retail and they don't deliver, you know?
Yeah.
So that hurts a lot. And sometimes it's not on them. Sometimes it's on the freight coming across seas.
Yeah.
Yep. That's why I say made in USA is like golden if you can get it done.
But it sounds like that's increasingly difficult.
It is because, once the factories and everything moved from the US and moved across to the other side of the world, it hurt. It hurt.
In what ways?
I mean, it hurt the US. That's one of the biggest ways, right? Because now instead of having all that manufacturing here in the States and employment, it all goes over across seas.
Yep.
It hurts in that way. But then on the other side of it, it hurts in me trying to get materials done and get it done the
Mm,
right way without me having to fly over.
yeah.
Now, pandemic hurt a lot. The pandemic hurt everything, right? What the pandemic opened up was our communications levels. Like me and you now, we're talking over Zoom.
Yeah.
That didn't exist before pandemic, you know?
Yeah.
So that helps for me to talk to the guys over across seas as well, more. And then they can they can hold up a color card and they can say, here's my color card. What do you think? Stuff like that. Where before I had to go over there or they had to ship it to me.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Well, let's shift up the energy level here just a little bit. I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions,
Uh-oh.
and you're going to give me just your top of the head short answers. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. What is the key to success for you?
Being happy.
Being
Staying,
happy.
having my mental. Yep.
Oh, mindset's everything, man. I
Yep.
totally believe in that. What is your best piece of advice for other business owners?
Stay focused. Don't give up on your goal.
So a lot of business owners were constantly trying to learn new things, right? So
Yep.
what like books or podcasts or lessons have you learned in the past that you would recommend to other people to go and work on their growth edge as well?
I got a good mentor, which is it's tough for me to say for somebody else, but my mentor is Damon John from the Shark Tank.
Yeah,
And I met him back in the FUBU days. So
cool.
any book you can find that he's written, read it.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
amazing. What an amazing mentor to have. Holy
Yeah.
cow. Well, let's talk about that more offline.
Okay.
Um, if you had to choose one area of your business that you could sprinkle like magic pixie dust on and poof, all your problems would disappear, where would you use your pixie dust?
Our pixie that's it over in Asia. Make all my problems go away. Make sure the factories are running good and everything. Yeah.
That does, I've got some other clients that have to produce their goods in Asia as well. And it is just a constant headache.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's my next to last question, which is what is most inspiring to you these days, V? How are you keeping yourself fresh and like motivated and energized?
Ooh, that's a hard one. That's a hard one to fire at me. But to stay energized and everything, I just have to have a belief. My belief
Yeah.
is everything. So I just have to have a belief that it's gonna happen. I mean, if somebody give me a project or if I have something that I need to do, I just have to have a belief that it's gonna get done and make it happen.
And make it happen. That's what
Yeah,
we're all about. That's where we're called action coach, not talking coach,
exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So V, one of the things you mentioned to me before we hit the record button here is, in addition to your fashion brands, you're also doing something kind of different and interesting right now. Tell me about what that is.
Yes, I got a venture going on now. It's wine. So it's Viatlis wine. And it's red and it's dry, semi-dry, and it's a sweet. And it's just started releasing this week. So you guys got to go get it.
Oh,
And the way it came about was I was just doing props, fashion props on movies. And one of my wine bottles, which was water on the inside of it in the movie, was seen, and the label was seen, and people started calling into the movies, and they was asking them, "Where can I get this wine?" And they was like, "What wine?" And they told them, and so the theater called me, and they said, "Listen, you got to start looking at some wine. Do you have it?" And I said, "No." So I started doing research on how to make wine.
that's amazing. So
Yeah,
how do you, I mean, that's such a fascinating transition from like, because wine is kind of fashionable,
it
right?
is.
It
Yes.
changes year to year, just like fashion does.
Uh-huh.
So how are you making your wine? What's it called? Where can we find it?
Okay. The wine's been made in North Carolina,
Nice.
in Maxie, Pembroke, down at Pembroke, North Carolina. So it's being made by the Locklear Winery Vineyard. Yep.
Nice.
So, and they've been
Nice.
doing it it's by the Lumbee Indians. So the Lumbee Indians are
Yes.
made, and that was a big draw for me personally, to have another minority to team up and partner. So I went around, I went out to California, Napa Valley. I went around North Carolina. And I came back and somebody said, it's a winery right down where my son actually went to school in Pembroke. So I said, let me go down there and see. And I went down there. Me and Daryl Locklear, we sat down and we talked. And man, the home feeling that I got out of just talking to him and understanding that he wants to blow this brand up just as big as I do was great. So I got my numbers in place, everything's in place, and we're ready to go.
Oh, that is amazing. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations on that. And we'll look forward to looking for that and trying some of that and hope you do big things with your new wine brand. That's awesome. Well, V, this has been such a joy today. Thank you so much for being our
Uh,
guest. And listen, for those of you that just got to enjoy this conversation with V, like you, I'm sure, brought big nuggets out of this. This was a kind of a far-flung, far-ranging conversation, and V was kind enough to share some of his wisdom bombs with you today. So share this with your friends who can learn some things as well. So V, thank you so much, and
Thank
we'll see
you.
you next time.
Thank you.